I think everybody's here. Rishi is not going to be.
And someone called off, unfortunately, to
Yeah.
close the store, so he apologizes.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order. Oh, just right at 5:30. Jessica, you'll record the attendance. Article 2, approval of the agenda. If you haven't had a chance to look at it and would do so, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Article 3, approval of the September 17th meeting minutes. Again, if you haven't had a chance to look at them, I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'd move motion. I'd second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting minutes approved. Article 4, acknowledge any visitors wishing to speak? No. Moving on to Article 5, 28th Street and 996 Island improvements. And I think Jade, are you gonna overview this for us?
I can, for sure. So in your packet, hopefully you had a chance to take a look at them. I think I had mentioned this before, that the large island on 28th Street, right before you get to I-96, is, although it's a county road, it's the township's responsibility to take care of it. I got some history working with the Kent County Road Commission. And I believe, I can't remember what year it escapes me, but at some point the road was redone at that intersection. And the DDA back then had contributed to make improvements to that island. And then since then, the maintenance has just not really gone anywhere. It was one of the first things that I noticed when I took this position. And I think I may have mentioned that to you. So I have been working with the road commission. They've been trying to find out where there was an agreement on who was supposed to take care of it. They can't find anything. We don't have anything, but it was clearly documented in the bid specs that it was paid by the DDA and sponsored by the DDA. So with that in mind, I went and worked with Ben at Harder and Warner and said, can you take a look at the island? Let me know what you think we could do that could, one, aesthetically make it look better, but two, also be a little bit better from a maintenance perspective down the road. So he has put together a proposal, which I've included in your packet for consideration. And we do have the dollars in the budget under landscaping in the DDA budget. And this would absolutely count, we appropriate for that line item. He gave 3 options and I put this write-up that you see in your packet was actually written by him, not by myself.
Mhm.
So it's got some of his feelings and his suggestions and how he would approach the project. So when I was looking at this, I'm like, well, I said, I don't want to make the decision on my own. So I wanted to bring it back and forth this body to say, do any of these strike a chord with you? Is there ones that we like more than another? So I wanted to present that and see, they're all around the same cost. I think the cheapest one was 9,000 up to 12,000 for the one with the cobblestones and the accent boulders. So I wanted to present that and see if there was any discussion or desire to move forward with the improvements of that island.
And this is for implementation in the spring. of
Actually,
next-
depending on which one we go with, they could actually, well, they would start clearing it this winter.
Okay,
And then if it was anything that was plant related, they would plant that in the spring.
Okay.
But if we go with something that was more the cobblestone and boulders, that if we have another mild winter like we did last year, we could see it happen over the
Okay.
winter months.
all right.
Jade, I just have a question.
Yes.
Some of the other islands in Cascade are really well kept, and I'm just kind of wondering why that one is.
Which ones, here's the question, which ones do you think are well kept?
Well, on Old 28th Street.
Hmm.
And I keep going back and forth.
The grass, where it's grass,
Yeah.
or the trees of this.
Yes,
Yeah, I
and I
don't know.
why. I'm just asking why some look better than others. It's not within my expertise to know
Yeah.
landscaping at all.
I could only go out on a limb and probably assume as to why I know that our building and grounds folks, they do mow the one down by Old 28th Street and I think it's just the makeup of the landscaping. And then this one, there's a safety concern here too. So they do this probably not as frequently as they do the other islands. And when they do it, it's just a matter of time because of the kind of traffic that
I
goes
wouldn't
through
want to
there.
mow there. I
know, right.
I know. So it has to be as easy as can be, but look
Right.
nice.
Right, and that's kind of what Ben was in agreement. I think on all of them, he had recommended keeping the grasses on the far ends. And then what is really the issue is the dated, ugly ground cover evergreens in the
It's
middle.
bad.
Yeah,
I can't even picture it. I had bad luck at our house with creeping juniper, not that I still like it, I'm fine with it, but it didn't take off.
yeah, and and
It needs a lot of sun.
But
I
that
guess-
seed and that may be the right spot for it.
yeah.
Do we have restrictions on what we can do?
Yeah.
The county has actually seen all of these proposals and are good with any of them.
Okay.
Yep. So
So
we
the tree thing that we have on Old 28th Street, can that be replicated up there?
They won't let us put trees, right? That's the
I-
kind of the tricky part.
yeah,
Oh, it's
I
Yeah.
did,
visibility.
Yeah.
type thing?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What kind of ground cover is there today? Is it like if we put ground cover again, is it gonna?
Like car parts.
No, did you say car parts?
I don't, is there ground cover there?
I guess I'm using ground cover probably wrong. It's,
Shrubs.
it's,
Yeah.
the low, like the very dated, like 1980s, 90s evergreens that kind of get really wide. and
Yeah,
Only the top
Yeah.
of the ground. It's those, and most of it is actually somewhat barren. It's just,
yeah.
so the crews are out there, they would do mulch, but then you get a winter or you get a rain or then they shovel snow or plow snow and it takes the mulch right out.
Yeah.
So this would take care of, a lot of
There's
that.
gotta be a lot of salt and everything that goes on there in the winter
Mhm.
time. So I'm sure Harder and Warner is taking that into consideration and putting plants or
Yep.
proposing plants.
Yeah, and
And
he's,
will our maintenance crews still be doing the maintenance on it?
that would be the plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Does he have any pictures other than what we see here that we could see what each one would look like versus just a drawing?
He did not submit that to me, but if that's requested, I can absolutely get that and we can revisit it. I mean, it's waited this long, another month isn't
Every
gonna
time you
hurt.
get off 96, you see it.
I
Whether
just
east
cannot
or
even-
west.
Oh, you can?
It's
Yeah.
the one that's right by the Mire, right in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's-
it's
We always get up
starting
at
to call it up.
Cascade.
It's on the east side of the overpass.
It's this right here. There were a lot of flowers there for a while.
What's, did
And
he,
now there's nothing, like this past summer in
I'll
spring.
Zoom into it.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I should have included a current day picture and I didn't.
So just on the east side of that
you
overpass.
said, and I just, did
Right
he say
before
what kind of
Meyer?
ground
It's
cover?
not-
Or he'll,
yeah.
did he say what kind of ground cover?
He did not, but he, something that would just need to be trimmed
Yeah.
once a year.
Yeah,
I guess my point of view, if we're known for our natural beauty.
Yes.
It's just, and it's the concrete jungle over there, right? But
Yeah.
that's your first entrance point to Cascade.
Exactly.
I would, even though it's maybe a little bit more maintenance, I would lean more towards the juniper than boulders, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah.
Just to match up with who we are.
And maybe the
Yeah.
ground cover? I just don't know.
I would agree, anything green.
Yeah.
To break up that's in.
It's your first, one of your first experiences is you're pulling into the area. I don't know, not that that's gonna make or break your experience in Cascade.
But it is the first thing you see.
Obviously doesn't
Yeah.
change my experience.
I say Kristen, it didn't even make an impression. She was.
Well.
This'll be your first time.
Changed my opinion, just like when you drive into a community, the first thing you see, and if you're not familiar, that's what you see. It's a bunch of weeds.
Yeah.
Steve, I see your wheels turning.
Well, yeah, first, the thought was believe it or not, the boulders.
That was
Only-
my first thought.
Only for the fact of, again, that is such a dangerous area right there. So many cars for the upkeep.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have to block off the road every time they wanna do anything there. The junipers, I had to look those up to see what they look like. And to me, they seem like very large weeds. I mean, just, bush, so don't take them.
Well, it's hard to
But
differentiate them
they
either.
just don't seem to like have any shape. They're low to the ground. They're just green. They're just scraggly. There's just nothing there. The 120 little plants every 12 inches along there. Again, we just know it's gonna be the upkeep piece. We always end up with who's gonna take care of this. And, it would be wonderful if there was color. It'd be wonderful if they could do the cobblestone and the stones, and I hate to say that, you know, if there was a way that they could have, you know, even if it is a petunia flower bed in there, just to have some kind of color in the spring and it goes through the summer. Because the salt is gonna kill anything that
Yeah.
goes in there.
Yeah.
Should we defer to the-
Petunias though.
That's
need
what I was
water.
just.
Yeah, we
Could they
can't.
put
That's
containers?
the
in
issue.
there?
Like
Those
And
are
I-
not
Here's the
tall.
problem, buildings and grounds hates. It's like, there's so much traffic there, you have, no matter what, you're putting somebody there, the road
Right.
commission is
They're
so
great.
busy.
Yeah,
Right.
So it really can't be, I think we could do flowers in other areas like Centennial Park or even maybe that median on 28th Street, because it's such a, or no, sorry, Cascade. But this
Yeah.
one is just like,
Yeah, he did say,
gotta go with
you
it.
know, if there was one that was preferred over another, and I didn't have him spend a lot of time doing renderings, but if there was one, like, we like the boulders, but we want some sort of greenery in there as well, he can go back to the drawing board and we can zero it in on that. I mean, I just wanted to, before I went down too far down the path, to make sure that, you know, we were all on the same page. So if we're leaning one way or the other, I can have him go back and say, hey, we want to go with this, but we want to add some more color, or maybe a little bit of ground cover or something like that. So
Mhm.
Maybe those big boulders like you see with a fewer plants? I
Really
don't-
big ones?
Are there rocks out there already? Big
Anybody
ones out
runs in
there?
there?
there might be a couple, but they, yeah.
Like really cool. What about flat ones
Yeah.
on top of each other? Like,
Well, how much, I mean, I can have him go back to the drawing board altogether. I told him to keep it reasonable.
Mhm.
But we can definitely have him go back. And if we like the rock, I mean, that is definitely something that he could go back and put some layers and make it much more, what's the,
aesthetically pleasing to
yeah,
see.
as opposed to just rock or
Yeah,
cement.
like just a boulder placed
Yeah.
there, but something
Yeah.
pretty, but very, very low maintenance, so that nobody has to go out there. and put
Yeah.
their life away.
Yeah, I think
Right.
if you have to water something, it's a no-go.
Yeah.
I agree with Steve there, but if you have to go and weed and do everything, it's like, what? You're still engaged in that space where it's really, really busy.
I would
So,
not want to work there.
I would
So-
rather use some of that money to spruce up, and I can't remember if it's Grace or if it's you, Jade, that despises the Cascade sign in front of the hotel.
It's me.
Everybody.
But
Yeah.
there's, well, I mean, that was.
Well, and actually you bring up a really good point, because if we went back to the drawing board with this, you could complement the two sites. So we could upgrade the sign to if we did some sort of the stacking stones, or I could have him take a look at both locations. And then you're starting to really create an entrance into Cascade,
Mhm.
which is what we've kind of been talking about with streetscape, and it could be the start of more to come.
Yeah.
So that island, what is the purpose of it?
I have no idea. I mean,
Just a
Just-
traffic.
Did they put that in when they redid Centennial Park? Is that
No.
part of it or?
it was complete, it was part of the county's in MDOT's road project that was joined, because they did some ramp improvements, and then they did some Cascade Road
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 28th Street Road improvements, and then the DDA.
They widened it, they put those extra turn lanes. in.
There.
They actually, when I was talking to the road commission, they said that that's the widest interchange that they have in the entire county.
Really?
And it's a little overkill.
I still see people walk across it.
Oh, I see it all the time too. I do too. Yep.
It's like watching people play frog.
Like,
It really is. I hate to say it.
Sometimes they do it wearing black at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're all just a person walking, you know.
I'm concerned about, I'm concerned about the whole idea of plant maintenance and in that thing. There's no irrigation in it, you know, anything you plant, I mean, everything needs some amount of water. And so I don't mind the hardscaping if it can be done really well and, you know,
I like the idea of flow
interesting.
with the sign too.
That'll be
Yeah.
really hard on people's cars if they crash into it.
right.
Actually, I'm looking online, and the Google picture of that island is a million times better than what it looks like right now.
Oh,
It looks nothing,
Yeah.
it looks nothing like this.
Yeah.
It is
Does it
bad.
have a date on that
There
picture?
was a group that
Maintained it.
maintained it for a while. I remember there used to
They're
be a
not-
sign
they're
out
not-
there that said, so-and-so is managing it. And there were flowers out there. And the list goes back pre-COVID.
Yeah.
I still like, if it's possible, like if there's like, if he knows of a robust ground cover, I like the idea of green, but
I could go back and again, have him look at a little bit
Mhm.
like a combination of 1 and 2. Obviously, looks like the junipers are out.
Every
But-
ground cover at my house ends up with weeds in it, though. And
Yeah,
it's so
that's
hard to
it.
weed.
It is. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what
grows
you
up
put
through
in,
there,
it's
you can't
gonna
just-
need.
You'll need it with the hardscape too. I'm not advocating that we do it, but I think there's some degree of maintenance that will be required.
It says here under the
regardless, like,
hardscape
yeah,
one that they
the
can just
herbicide.
spray,
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
do the spread, you know.
addresses that there.
I mean, there is the greenery that's on either end of the island. That is the tall grasses.
Yeah,
Those are staying.
yeah,
So there will be some sort of buffer, but the majority of it would be hard.
those don't need any maintenance. Those things will come back if it was dry for 6 months.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'd be voting for money towards it as long as there's the least amount of maintenance towards it. And it looks nice, whether it's just grass and a sign and a robotic mower or something, but I don't blame any of
Yeah.
the city people for not wanting to go there.
And this is a good one to like spruce it up, but it's not a place to dump a lot of money. Like this is one to be cost conscious too.
So I guess that leads to the question of if you are, so if you go westbound on 28th Street coming off of I-96, we've got that one sign, whether you like it or not, you got the sign. If you're coming eastbound off of I-96, there's nothing welcoming you to Cascade. So I guess the question is on that corner, do we have an opportunity of, if we do a hardscape here, there might be worthy of an investment to welcome people into the community and do something there.
Yeah.
That no matter how you enter it, you're engaging someone and welcoming to, you know, the DDA.
With that said, is there any way that we can put anything hanging underneath the overpass? People are coming in.
Oh, MDOT is so, you mean hanging from,
Oh, I don't know, somehow, some kind of signage on, you know, the overpass as far as welcome.
check.
Yeah, I could talk to MDOT and see what they say.
We'd have to coordinate through MDOT.
Yeah, but I mean, they probably.
Worth
would let us
asking.
do it.
That's the,
Yep.
yeah.
We
Could look
can,
into
we
it.
can definitely look into
Because
that.
then you could get rid of the ugly sign then too. It'd be
Yeah.
nice if we could put it on both sides. of the
Yeah.
expressway,
Right.
Or both
Mhm.
sides of the,
Overpass.
And we don't need like the kind that's like super huge and obvious. We just subtle.
I think there's an opportunity, no matter, I mean, it's kind of hard without seeing pictures, but when you're coming in, like something on both sides.
Yep.
And then I think it's a no-brainer with the hardscape to your concern.
So what I'm hearing is to go back and maybe do not just the island, but to do some scenarios where we could actually somewhat brand and identify the entire intersection and do some improvements on eastbound and westbound that also include improvements to this island. Okay. That's actually really exciting for me. So I think that would be great. So I can definitely go back. My first stop, just so everybody knows how my process will work, is I definitely will start with the road commission to make sure that, you know, anything additional other than this island, they're on board with, and then I'll have to get a hold of MDOT to see what we could do in their right of ways. So, but they do them in communities all over the place. So it's probably just a process that they have. I don't know what that process is yet, but we can definitely take a look. Okay,
Okay.
great.
Article 6, staff updates.
Yeah, we got a pretty light agenda tonight. Most of it was just updates on things that are coming up other than what we just talked about. So I included some bullet points and figured there'd just be a lot of conversation tonight about each of these. The first item I have is the Cascade Village Reimagined. I know we had 3 of our members there for the OHM presentation, which was done in this room. I tried to put some highlights there. I guess, you know, anyone that was there, please chime in anytime. We had great attendance.
I thought it was a fantastic
Mhm.
presentation. It
Yeah.
made me really excited.
Good. I'm
good.
glad to hear that because I went into it a little bit nervous, to be quite honest with you, but it was fantastic.
And I
Well-
walked away with a lot of resident support. And some great ideas from them too.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I expected a lot of the people that were there to be negative, and that one person was negative.
Right.
I watched it online and the concepts and everything, loved it. I passed it to a bunch of neighbors and they loved it. They were super excited, so.
That's great. And I think Grace can probably speak to this too, is trying to get it out there and let it we're using the word
Yeah.
marinate, let it marinate with the public to garner that feedback, but I have not heard one bad thing. If anything, we have seen the opposite, and we've actually had private property owners come to us and say, oh, we're interested in selling, or we're interested in this. And I'm jumping ahead, but I just had our first meeting today on the facade site grant program that DDA rolled out with a property owner. So,
That's in place now?
well, yes, we voted for it at the last meeting. Yep.
So property owners can apply now?
Yes, yep, yep. We were working through, because the funding doesn't actually take place until January, but they read about it.
Application will be in by the end of the month.
We did a little thing in the newsletter, and because I asked them, like, I haven't promoted this at all. How did you find out about this? And they said, oh, I read it in the newsletter, and they were on the phone. So, but yeah, so if anything, it sparked a lot of the excitement and I think comments from the property owners.
There's,
So-
I think I said this before, but it was on hold, right? Because everything's a balance. It takes time, but there were 3 property owners near or in the village area that had expressed just initial interest.
Yep.
If you hit the right areas, like,
Well, when they showed the concept of Old 28th Street, I was like, there's no way that people are gonna go for this.
We have not, but those are the one group we haven't heard from. We've heard,
Scott, I was curious if you had seen it, because that's in your.
I had seen it. I like it.
Okay,
I could see some pushback.
and realistically, it's gonna be 1 phases and 2. We can do some, right? But that most extreme, it's not gonna happen, right? You take-
Right.
But there is a lot, what we can do and what we can encourage, and the zoning, McKenna is doing a fantastic job with making it's hard and it's not, with doing the right kind of zoning to encourage the right,
Yeah.
like, form based, so it doesn't, not so much the
Yeah.
use, what you're using it for, but it's like, it's there,
Yeah.
that's a key piece
Great.
too.
Yeah,
I think they said it well in the presentation. This is a 10-20 year plan, right?
Oh, yeah.
It takes a while.
yeah,
But don't you
yeah,
want to get our part done as soon as
I
possible?
know, right?
oh, yeah, the park, yeah.
Yeah, that's in the.
So the hope is it fair to say that OHM is gonna come back with more detailed or potential, nothing's set, right? But more, like, especially the newsletter that'll come out in January, and then for like, it'd be nice to have potential drawings, like what it looks like if you're standing in the middle of the intersection.
Mhm.
Across.
Yeah, so they
Corner
took the
property.
feedback from that day and are going back to come up with that one final promotable marketing concept
Mm.
by taking the feedback that was given that day. And then from there, we'll have better renderings that we can then start going to the next phase, which is on our properties, actually start preliminary engineering, funding, financing, planning, and then continuing to talk to property owners about how they could revitalize or redevelop their own properties.
So I think that's what it's gonna be is,
Mhm.
starting with tassel and getting that going. That's gonna build excitement. If, the concept that they gave, with Rishi's building, which he said, yeah, please do,
Yep.
if something like that happened, then be like, whoa, all right, this is really happening. How can I get on
Mhm.
board with this? Or what changes do I need to make this happen?
100%.
Um,
And that's been my experience in the past. And I know every community is a little bit different, but that's exactly what we've seen happen. And then it just trickles and it just feeds off each other. So, which is really exciting.
I didn't notice that he really brought the stone building into the plans very much, though.
No, that was,
Yeah.
and it's trickier. That's one, if we can flesh something out a little bit more.
So on the concepts that were online, so I wanted to get, heading into the meeting I had today, I had him send me the renderings again because they had sent me the link and my link expired. So I asked him to resend them to me. They did already take some feedback because I think there was some comments that day about creating a connectivity from the plaza around the back of Cascade Roadhouse and then up through the Stonehouse property. There's actually a rendering now of a pathway going that way. It's kind of, the elevation's kind of interesting, but they did work it in and I'm like, oh, that
A
actually worked.
driving pathway or a walking?
No,
it's
like
gotta be
walking,
walk.
walking, biking pathway, yeah, just a connection from
Mhm.
Orange Avenue through the property into the shopping. Yeah,
Is it realistic to have a path underneath the bridge or is that far fetched?
You mean
No.
along the river?
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's,
I think that's, no, underneath, so you can in theory go,
Get
there's enough.
across.
Yep.
We're,
Yeah.
it's in the, If you
Yeah,
look
It's
at,
not
if you,
that I wouldn't
So
walk
the
it at
answer
1
is
o'clock in the
yes.
morning, but
Oh,
Yeah.
it's there already?
no,
No.
I think it's possible.
Oh,
It's
okay.
possible.
Okay.
And
yeah,
when you go to that doctor's office, right, when I started, it was like, oh, that's assumed it's a tear down. It's so weird when you stand there. Well, one, we hope you don't fall in because it's kind of rotted, but the view, you cannot get that. It's,
Beautiful. Yeah.
and it doesn't bother you don't notice the road being there. You notice the dam and the river. It's so cool. And that would go right to
Yeah.
the
if you
bridge.
look at the concept, they didn't actually design it yet because they were, again, making sure that everybody was on the right page. It does show the walkway going kind of beyond that doctor's office to kind of underneath the bridge. Doesn't show it coming up on the other side, but there is easements over there, so they definitely could do something underneath the bridge,
That would be pretty cool.
wouldn't it?
It's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
For kids, that would be, and it's not gonna be the prettiest part of the park, but if it just gives you a safer option, that would be.
I've got some staff that live up in your neighborhood, Grace. And when they saw the concept, they were like, where was this when my kids were growing up? Because their kids are grown now. And they were like, we would have been down there all the time. And they said they did it one time and they thought they were gonna lose their life just trying to walk across that bridge. So it's, I mean, even people that have raised kids already are like, this is got good feedback.
And they can make it look good. I mean, there's a lot that they can do. Using those under bridge spaces that.
They did a great job too. It was subtle, but how everything is oriented towards the river, like, and also just the overall big picture, how everything's kind of taking you towards the dam or eyes towards the river, but then also how they, being able to enjoy that, like a couple, they're not even docks, but like, you know, taking advantage of that we've got our natural features.
So I was able to go do this for those of you that were there. It's on the concept too. It has the QR code that you can kind of do the walkthrough. You can turn your cell phone and either if you actually go do that in the park, you can stand like where one of the markers is and then do it and you can visualize like where you're at. We were out the next day after the meeting and I'm like, oh, so this is where the one spot is. If I stand here and then do this, I'm like, oh, I can see it. Like it was pretty interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. And they're gonna make that interactive piece even better.
So remember you, when you were out walking around, like all those, this is little stuff, but like all the telephone poles that
Yeah.
will have to, that'll be a chunk of change, but there's so many when you start looking at all the utility
Yeah.
poles that'll have to be put under.
How will the donation from the Kingsland family, how does that all gonna play a role in all this?
The Kingsland family.
Like they initiating the Tassel Park, wanting to make sure that we're not just
Like,
erasing that,
forgetting.
honoring, still making.
Well,
sure-
Yeah.
They have plaques. and-
Yeah, I think on one of the renderings you can see, I think on the big like the, what do they call it? The jewel box or something, the main building.
Mhm.
It actually had tassel on there. It actually had their name. And then they had thrown out the idea, and I don't know if it came through on the concepts either, but you know, those steps where you go along the river, actually doing some sort of statue that was tassel himself, because there's so many other pieces of art and sculptures throughout that park. So it would be probably more up to us to figure out how to actually commemorate that, but it's definitely not forgotten. And we would make sure that we memorialize that.
And I think there was already frustration. We can confirm this with the family, but after it was put in, the lack of maintenance or how it was kind of gone, there was already frustration and bad feelings.
Mhm.
So I think,
Haven't been taken care of.
yeah,
It's an opportunity.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
For sure. So yeah, so next steps would be for them to finish up that final concept, bring it back before everybody, take another look at it, and then we can start that next phase. And then continue the talk. So if you guys talk to anybody, you know, push them back to that project page. We're gonna update that with some more information and just kind of keep it everybody's. We kind of did it right up in the newsletter. It was kind of long last month, but it really did kind of explain the process and the thought and like from start to finish. And then this next edition, we're gonna have some more clearer pictures on the concepts itself. And we're just gonna make sure that we keep hitting it so everybody's familiar with it.
Can you tell if the website has a lot of hits for that?
I didn't
Content.
actually pull those stats. I know we can, and I can pull those for sure.
Just be curious.
Yeah, Yep. Um. Any more questions on the Village Reimagined? Okay, great. Memorial Park, if you haven't had a chance to walk through Memorial Park, I encourage you to do so. It looks amazing. The Kent Garden Club made some updates. Harder and Warner assisted there. And then you should have seen last week, Thursday, a 17-foot evergreen tree got reinstalled where it once was. It's a beautiful tree, if you like trees. So there's been a lot of updates there, so I just encourage everyone to check that out. I mean, it's kind of like that prime little spot right in the village area. So that tree will definitely be lit up. We'll talk about lighting here in a few minutes, but yeah, everything's coming together with that location. I just wanted to put that on there as something else that's happening in the village area in the DDA. Parks and facilities, we did hire a new parks and facilities director and a program coordinator to manage all of the assets that we have from parks and I include things like the Stonehouse in that too, because truly that's a facility that we want to open up to the public. And actually, speaking of that, one of the first things we're doing is on December 14th at 4 o'clock, we're doing Christmas at the Stonehouse. So the Stonehouse will be lit up with the white lights, and then they're going to decorate the inside, but Santa Claus is going to be there. You're going to be able to make Christmas ornaments. They're going to make holiday cards for the retirement homes. Something else they were doing, a couple of hot cocoa, music, that type of thing. So there's more information on our Facebook page and our website on that, but Sydney immediately was like, oh yeah, we have to do something really cool here for the holidays. So they're involved in the tree lighting on the 1st and then also this on the 14th. And so we're hoping that at some point we can combine two events and do something bigger, like Christmas in the entire village, as opposed to piecemealing these separate programs together. And if anyone's interested in volunteering, I don't know in what capacity she may need. I believe that is a Saturday. It's Saturday, the 14th. And I know it's the holiday, so people are really busy. But if you are interested at all, or just want to show up, it would be great. But if you're interested in volunteering, let me know. Jessica or myself know, and we can get you in contact with Sydney. Holiday lights. So at our last meeting, we talked about expanding the holiday lights, and I worked with Scott and Michelle as they volunteered to be liaisons to the DDA, because we needed to move on that in order to get things installed before the holidays and make sure we get in line. So we walked the entire village area with the lighting. We did look at the tree. They really screwed that tree up when the lighting guy was like, I don't even know what I could do with that. So
It used to be so pretty.
yeah, I could see how it used to be
You used
nice.
to be able to see it as you came down Old 28th Street and it had it
Yeah.
all lit up one year.
Yeah.
And then they chopped it.
So, so they're gonna do more of the lights on every pole as opposed to just every other pole. The Stonehouse is gonna be outlined just like the museum's gonna be outlined. And then, down in Tassel, they only used to go to the pavilion, but there's so much more to that park. And then with the dam, so, our guys installed some more electrical down there, and then they're gonna expand. There's the very last parking lot where it's kind of like the turnaround. There's a big clump of trees in the middle. They're gonna light that up, and then they've got a couple other trees that they're gonna light up. And then they're gonna play with maybe like lighting up the dam so that you could see, the water at night. So we're going longer into the park and then further up Cascade Road as well. And then the Stonehouse. So I asked for an update. It's tomorrow, right? Yeah, they're installing tomorrow. So. Pedestrian bridge, I put in the best rendering that we had. This is what we got from our engineers. Engineers are not artists, clearly. But this is a rendering of what the bridge will look like after Cascade Road Bridge is complete. Through some scheduling issues, it went from a project that was supposed to get started in August, and that didn't happen. So they're breaking up into two phases. They started, you can already tell if you've driven through there, the barricades are up. They're staging on the Tuffy site. They'll be completing that work in mid-December and then picking it back up in March, I believe. Yes, March, and then completing the entire thing by May. So, so stay tuned for that. If you have any feedback on traffic patterns, we played with a couple things because we're talking to the county about retiming the light because traffic was going, I guess, they're coming from the east, going westbound. Is that right? Westbound on Cascade. They were up and over the hill because so we had to have them expand the time of light. Have you seen a lot of increase in traffic or
I'm not.
crazy traffic? Say what?
I'm not at the store to watch the traffic.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of concerned a little bit, although
scary.
it's past the point where we've seen some accidents, but the way they're lining the lane. With so many people coming south, Thornapple and turning west. Are so used to having their lane and
Yes.
you're turning into a lane that is like you're into head-on traffic.
That's one of the ones that we're bringing up to them because that's the same feedback I got from a couple of trustees as well. So we are trying to address that and come up with a new traffic pattern for that.
Or just market.
A market, because the arrows are too far, like they need to have them back further so that people
Mhm.
can see. So we're,
Yeah, it's not easy understood.
right.
Yeah, especially if you turn on from Thornapple and turn left onto Cascade, I was
Yes.
kind of like, where am I?
There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Jay, as you were describing the timeline, being done in mid-December, does that mean that they're going to have the south side of the bridge completed?
they're hoping to, yes.
And
That-
then they'll
that
do
is-
the north side of the bridge in the
Yep.
spring?
Yep,
Okay.
that is the plan.
Yeah,
Yes,
so it'll be completely done on the south side and they're just gonna leave it untouched on the north side
correct.
for the phase two.
Yep.
And they'll clear everything out of there
Yep.
and bring all the barrels back in the spring.
That's the plan, yes. And you can see they're staging a few items on the Tuffy site, which as soon as that building, I have more updates on that too. As soon as we get the clear to demo that, then they'll move off all their stuff off site when we're ready to demo that building, which I will go right into that because that's the last thing. We finally got confirmation that DTE was out 2 days ago and have removed what they need to. So now I have both utilities off the property. So it goes before the board tomorrow to authorize the demolition contractor, and then it will be immediately scheduled. So I'm still hopeful that that thing will be down by the end of the year. So, but yeah, so it took us a long time to work with consumers in DTE, and I've never experienced something that took us that long.
Was there an explanation? Just curious.
DTE had a very funny process we had to go through. It was almost like you were asking for construction documents when you're actually for deconstruction, but it's the same process. So it took a while. I can say hats off to our parks and facilities guy because he actually knew somebody else at DTE. And then when we started working with consumers, we needed to get a franchise agreement done with them. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything until you help me with this consumers thing. So there was a little bit of give and take on that. Consumers did have to remove a pole. Because if you go out to the site, you'll notice there's like 3 or 4 utility poles on the property itself. They actually removed one off the property. So it just took a while. Yeah, and that was unfortunate.
DTE is backed up on all projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ran into a challenge with them on near the lake shore.
Okay.
Yeah, they took forever and they were really hard to communicate with.
Yeah, everything's got to go through their call center. You got to follow this form. If you don't, then you get a ticket number. You get caught up in the bureaucracy, the red tape of it. And even though we have government liaisons and they're like, oh, my hands are tied. Well, then what are you doing? So,
Yeah, it took us 4 months to get gas to a building.
wow,
So
wow.
So this is gonna be done December 16th, which is what, almost a month from now? I don't know if we can get the sheriff's department to have a cruiser occasionally be out there, but people are blowing through, so they're speeding to try and get through the light
Oh, I can have them out there for sure.
and.
That's the first I've heard that feedback. So,
Yeah, yeah. And nobody's paying attention to 30 miles an hour. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people are not.
right.
I'm just worried about those poor guys that are working there.
Well, are you talking about going out of town or both directions?
Both directions.
Yeah. Okay.
And tonight, like it's lined up headed eastbound. And then, in the morning, it's probably lined up
Yeah.
going westbound. And people get frustrated and then they want to go, you know, so they're blocking the intersection, and, you know, it's up, and then people get mad and then they start driving like crazy. People.
I think it's actually a good thing it's being done in phases, right? So that you can actually
Yeah.
see what it's gonna look like
Yeah.
on one side and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
and then it.
And
it'll
then have
happen
some
again,
bridge
right?
move,
But
like a
it's
break
just,
in
at
between.
least it's not like we're talking about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And we were pretty adamant when they started this process, and we worked with the construction company, that traffic be maintained in both directions. Because the first iteration was they were gonna close it. And I'm like, you can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
we would pay for that for sure. The Rishi would be all over my back.
It'll be interesting that the finishes, like the lights, the kind of some of the
Yeah.
decorative stuff, if that gets,
That'll probably be phase 2, I would think,
right? Because they're
I
not
would
gonna put
think.
all the,
because I'm sure they're gonna order that all at once.
Okay.
You might see the interior, but that exterior finishes and light posts will probably happen with phase 2. I can get confirmation on that because I'm actually not sure.
it makes more sense if they waited. It'd be kind of cool to.
Yeah.
The end result is gonna be very nice. It's just gonna be a little pain in between.
Mhm.
It is, but it'll be done in time for summer.
But right as we get done complaining about winter, then we'll have a brand new road.
So I'm looking at this rendering and, they show I don't remember how tall those light posts are. And I think in one meeting, we talked about being able to hang banners on those light posts.
Mhm.
And so I've always wondered, somebody told me that the flags have to be angled like that. When they're on the bridge. I don't know why.
It could have been the old ones. There's so many different options now. Once we haven't gotten that far to pick out the actual.
Right. I'm just bringing it up now that maybe we can talk about some of those details, because they put the flags on an angle. You really can't see them. You can't see them from the road. Nobody goes under that bridge in a boat. So they seem sort of like it's a missed opportunity to have flags visible along there. And there might be a better way to do it.
What we can do is I can get with the engineers and then have them pick the fencing that was chosen that's going up. They have the fixtures that go right onto that. So I'll have them send us and then we can take a look at that.
But I think it's part of a bigger project if we talk about, once we get this bridge done, then to talk about how we calm the traffic a little bit more by making it feel a little bit more dense in that space, because that's a chance to slow down traffic, knowing that, you know, you do a census of traffic and they take the average of the speed, right? And so this is kind of a process of, okay, the bridge narrows things a little bit. And then the next phase is how do we make it feel just a little, nicely settled through that corridor. So there might be a project there, not that you're short on work, to look at reimagining that sense and trying some things.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then I think we're getting closer to that goal of making that feel like an activated downtown as we have longer range plans.
100%. And that's all I have. So, I knew you were gonna ask that. And just yesterday, I'm like, oh, I forgot to put this together. I want the building department to start putting together a list of all of them so I can actually include them in the staff report that will be in the agenda. So, because some communities have what's called reoccupancy permits, where if a new business comes in and they take an existing building, they have to come in and apply for that. Cascade doesn't have that. And I'm not saying, I'm not a proponent for or against it, but sometimes it's hard to keep track of, especially if it's like a restaurant going to a restaurant. They just come in, reuse it and get inspected by the health department and change their sign. That's the part where they have to come get a permit, so we can track the signs that we have, the permits that we have, and start to track that more.
Then we've got Orange Theories coming in by Clean Juice, and then I think Mad Chicken came in where Detroit Cookie Company was at. I think there was another one that was about to open. Crunch Fitness is about to open.
Yeah,
There
that's
is-
not gonna work. Do you think it's gonna work?
My daughter signed up, I'm signing up.
Let's see.
What's the attraction to Crunch Fitness compared to
Low
the other?
cost. Like $10 a month.
Oh,
10 to 30. He likes it because it's closer than Planet Fitness.
There is gonna be a vacancy that we want to talk about that, but this is the people that I met with today on the site improvement grants. They own the building in the plaza behind Starbucks. There's a medical, it's got 3 or 4 different medical uses in it. They're the ones that actually came in today and discussed improvements to that building. But 6,000 square feet of that building is actually gonna be vacant as of January 1st. So they're looking for new tenants there as well. And I had no idea how far back that property went, but it goes all the way back to the creek. There's a creek that runs back there and it abuts the church. And I said, do you guys want to see what we want you to do with your property? So I showed them the concept and they were like, we love it. So they don't have any immediate plans to do that. They would need to get the other building done, but in the back there's definitely room for some of that mixed use, public-private partnership or townhomes type of thing. So.
Nice.
I was super happy with what they did with Dollar Tree and.
oh, yeah. Facing on.
Yeah.
all those
they-
buildings.
The facades.
I thought it looked really nice.
I think you kind of to the point of like, once one person starts, other ones see it, because these are separate owners than what you're talking about. That's what they said to me today. They're like, we have to do something because we're not competitive because now they're competitive.
Well, it's
So-
just like your neighborhood.
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah.
When the guy next door rakes his leaves. And then he puts the pressure on the rest of the neighborhood to rake their leaves.
Makes you feel guilty.
Really bad.
Yeah.
I'll just bring it down to.
Yeah, no, you're
Hold it out.
100% right.
So what are you doing after this meeting?
I'm usually the one that starts it.
Anything else with any of the updates, questions or no?
Did you hear anything, Jade, about the very front of Friendship Park, how we're waiting for the field wildflower?
I did. I thought you were, let me look. I believe that it's going in now.
Oh, okay.
Let me look. I got an email from Wes.
The bare areas,
It's hard to,
but they're all, I mean, you can tell that
Yeah.
they're all sculpted out and so there's a
I'm
plan
excited
for
for,
those.
yeah, people
Yeah.
ask, 'cause it's.
It's November.
Mhm.
The seed mixes are being assembled and will be installed end of this month.
Oh, wow.
So in the
Yeah.
next, I guess,
Good.
that's now. So I guess in the next week or so.
Oh, wow.
You know, I always like to ask this question, the hotel ordinance, how's that been going now that
So-
we're past kind of the implementation date?
Yeah, so October 1st was the deadline for the hotels to have us their completed applications and packets, if you will.
Yeah.
I can say, I think we had 95% compliance with receiving those. None of them were complete, so we've have to go through them and let them know what is missing out of those. We've had a few staffing challenges because we didn't have a planning and zoning administrator, so we've hired one. He started yesterday. So Andrea and I have a meeting on the books to start going through those and then responding back to them. I can say that our enforcement with fire department, when they're out there doing their sites, they're becoming much more astute to what else is happening other than just what they're being called out there for. So we're starting to take these notes and documents. So even if we don't have the completed packet, the word is out and we've started to work more closely with the hotels. I can say we haven't had any negative feedback from anybody, even our bad eggs. So I don't know that anything has changed as far as the activity happening at them yet, but I think that will come with the next step.
Any other business?
Jessica just reminded me, are we good with, we're gonna be putting our meeting schedule together for 2025? Are we still good on Tuesdays at 5:30 or is there enough? Okay.
Now, I was asking Michelle at the beginning of this meeting, do we have anybody's term up?
I'm sure,
Board
I
members?
have to look at it, because there's always.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
and I can be on, is yours up? Oh, because it's been 4 years?
Mhm.
Who was with you? This is terrible. I'll look and get back. There's gotta, oh, And that means you are.
And then I must be. Yeah, I haven't been tracking time.
There's 21, 22, 23, 24.
Was it just
Yeah.
two? It's just two. Okay, so it's, sorry, it's you.
Yep.
Do you guys want to continue to serve? You want to have,
No.
fine.
Look,
This is a really
continue to
exciting
serve.
Scott, would you like to continue to serve?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would.
All right, so that's it. They're a little maintain. Renee's spot have not found,
Yep.
I need to get on that. And if you,
Are you looking for another business owner?
and again, it has to be a business, someone with interest. It can't be.
Okay, all right, that, I just wanted
Yeah.
to know what the, yeah.
What's our rep? Well, we have two that are allowed to, well, oh,
the breakdown. Yeah,
you guys have the gold
That's us.
spots.
Residents.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's where the.
He's a resident
but he's
in
the
the
magic, he's in the district though.
Oh.
We're
And
not
in
in the
Cascade, it's
district.
hard to find.
Golden child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
Once we take off
are.
the village,
Golden egg.
You can never leave your seat.
but we don't want him to know that he's special because we want him to.
Please don't.
Okay, so DDA remains the same, but Renee, if you know of anybody,
Mhm.
Renee's spot.
I was thinking about that today. I don't, but
It's hard because you get a lot of people that, oh, but then you want to make it.
yes. Okay. What?
Oh, with the, or, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was. Wanted
Oh.
to share something.
Should we add a public comment just to? Do you have anything, sir?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interject earlier because I didn't, looking at the flow, it looks like you guys went through the visitor time before I got you. So I apologize for that.
We-
but-
We're just not used to having.
And I didn't know the public,
We're,
I,
we're flexible, we can
Yeah.
rewind.
We didn't know how to handle you.
no problem. I don't know how to handle it myself. But I got really excited about the Cascade reimagined in the newsletter.
Oh.
And didn't know about it until, I don't know, a week ago or so, when it showed up in my mailbox. So I'm probably a little late to the game and being here to give feedback on proposals and things. Is there a way to get my feedback to people who are putting together rendering for proposals on maybe a slightly different take on how to put all the pieces in Cascade together better, upper Cascade and lower Cascade?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to take that. I can talk with you after the meeting, but more than happy to take that the feedback for sure.
And are you a business owner or?
No, I'm a resident.
Okay.
In Anderson Woods at the Second Electric. Which is,
Great.
it is in Cascade, you know, it's pretty.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell your friends to come.
Yeah.
You guys need some more, people in the audience.
Yes. Yeah, we're used to just patting ourselves.
True.
No, that's
Actually,
good.
one other thought on the traffic arrangements with the bridge. Is there any way to maintain the 2 lanes on Cascade in both ways? Right now, there's 1 lane dedicated just for turning. And like you said, it's backed up, you know, going west in the morning, backed up going east. And it's sort of choked down to 1 lane. Seems like you could have an option to go to either turn or go through and maintain the 2 lanes, which might remove some of the traffic. I don't know if from a road perspective, if that's really dangerous, but it seems like it's.
It's worth mentioning. So the road commission will have an opinion on it and our
Yeah.
engineer can,
Yeah.
that's right up their alley.
I'll take it back to Eric
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, once the engineers get a hold of it, then we'll let them kind of take a look
We
at
all
it.
tried to get it done before school season, but they ran into supply chain issues, so. Had to postpone it.
Yeah, no complaints. An idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Fun to hear all the banter.
If there's no other business, we can move to adjournment. If anybody would like
I'll
to make a
to
motion.
adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
You.